I'm this week's guest host, Dr. Rita Louise, and we're speaking today with Kathleen Marden and Denise Stoner about their book, The Alien Abduction File. If you've missed an episode of Epic Radio, you can always come to the Inception Radio Network webpage and listen to a show on the website. But I would also like to direct your attention to the Epic Voyages Radio YouTube page, where all of the shows are archived, as well as some other presentations that are hosted by Epic in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that you can listen to interviews. I know, like, they interviewed me. It's like a 2 or 3 hour interview live with video and everything. But I know that they have, like, one with Sam Osminagosh, and they have a bunch. They've been working on a collection, and that's on the YouTube channel. But anyway, ladies, before we went to break, we were talking about electromagnetic fields and how Denise was blowing stuff up and her husband was turning lights on and off all over the place. How far have you found that extends with other people?
Well, this was very interesting. I became interested in it primarily because another experiencer that we wrote about, or I wrote about actually, in the Alien Abduction Files, Jenny Henderson had an experience in 1988. And in this experience, she was taken from her home at night with her 2 children. And when she was returned, the following morning, she started blowing out everything she touched in her house. First, it was the bathroom light, and, you don't think much about that, but then it was her hairdryer. Immediately after that, well, a little bit of a coincidence, but then she went downstairs and turned on a light, and that blew, and then she got the electric mixer out to make some pancakes, and that blew as well. And then she walked by her son's handheld little computer game, and it turned on itself and started playing. So with all of those things going on, it seemed more than a coincidence. So I wanted to ask if people who are experiencers had noticed electrical malfunctions of electrical equipment, and what percentage it was. 68% said yes, whereas it was only 32% of the control group. And they reported malfunctioning computers and watches and appliances, things like radios and televisions and cameras, compasses, wristwatches. Sometimes the hands on the wristwatch would spin. One participant said that whenever he was abducted, he would go to punch in to the time clock to go to work the following morning, and it would work for everybody else, but it wouldn't work for him. So that also happens sometimes in a grocery scanner. You're at the grocery store, and things will not scan when the experiencer is standing in front of the scanner. So
then they're free.
Those things happen. Yes. Wouldn't that be nice?
That's my line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really need to do this because I'll totally forget. But if you'd like to call in and ask a question of Kathleen and Denise, the phone line is 888-919-2355. That's 888-919-2355. Or stop into the chat room and leave a question there, and I will ask it live here on the air. So,
all right.
Yeah, I did it. Woohoo!
One of the things I've noticed, and I think I would mention to people, is that the blood pressure machines out there that you can buy and have in your home, where you're not taking your own reading using a stethoscope, etc., but the battery-powered ones, those do not like me. And I have not found one yet that will work, not even the ones in the doctor's offices. And they always say, why isn't this working for me? It's backfiring on us. This is the doctor or the nurse speaking, and they will end up having to get out the old cuff and read it. And so I think I do something to those.
But what I find interesting, I mean, my background is definitely came out of the metaphysical woo-woo world, was that there were a lot of individuals that I knew that were psychics or healers that would have the same complaint. And I just find it interesting that you're finding corollaries with experiencers. So I'm going to ask the opposite question. With experiencers, do you find that they have enhanced psychic abilities or some kind of healing abilities?
Yes. Absolutely. Denise, would you like to answer that?
Well, yes, I'll start out. When I lived in Denver and worked with Dr. Romack, we actually worked with a group of, quote, experiencers, and they were also highly psychic. We worked with a group that did some hands-on healing to test that theory, and a lot of that helped people that were either in extreme pain or they were ill with something that was chronic, and found that experiencers had more ability in working that through and having that person get better than ones that did not. As far as the psychic abilities, we had a group of us that got together to try and locate missing people and children, mostly children, and that got to be very painful. So the group didn't last too long, although we had a great deal of success. And then we worked in homes that had a lot of these light orbs and paranormal activity, poltergeist activity, and we would go as a group, as a team, to visit to see what would occur, and sometimes that activity would heighten just because we walked in. So it got to be very, very interesting that if you had one of you go, it was quieter than it would be if we had a team of us walk in together. So it's a very interesting situation, and I do believe it stemmed from being abducted.
Well, there is what they say that, you know, like ghosts and that kind of activity feeds off of electromagnetic energy. So if you guys are walking around like a little battery, I was thinking that there'd be all kinds of, you know, natural food sources, energy sources for them.
Yes, that could be. This one home that we were called to was having a lot of activity. They were experiencers, so when the group of us walked in with Dr. Romack, something on the balcony of their home right above the foyer was dropping things off that balcony, and they used to keep plants up there, and they couldn't do that any longer. So they did it as an example for us. So as soon as we walked in, whatever force or poltergeist activity caused it to occur went ahead and took these items off the balcony, and it landed at our feet in the foyer. So we could see it for ourselves.
It had good time too.
It was interesting.
Well, you know, I can tell you that from the question that we asked on the questionnaire, 79% of the experiences stated that they had new psychic abilities after an abduction. So that's a pretty high percentage.
Well, it just makes me wonder the people that I've known that, you know, that I knew because they were psychics that, you know, have the complaint, my watch goes backwards, you know, I blow everything up, you know, because it's not everyone, but, you know, in a conference full of people, it might be one person or two persons. So, you know, we're talking about this very small segment of the population, relatively speaking, but it makes me wonder if they were experiencers or at some point in time. It could happen.
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Yes, it could, or perhaps they've had a sighting they don't recall, and the operation of a craft affected them. I can only wear a watch that is one of the kinetic watches that does not operate on battery or wind up. It operates because there's light affecting it, and the movement of my wrist. That's the only way I can wear a watch.
I can tell you also that on the the commonalities among non-abduction experiencers, there were 2 individuals who answered that questionnaire who had everything in common with abduction experiencers. It was really uncanny. So perhaps they are and don't even realize it.
Well, I mean, it's just such a odd thing in the general sense of the word. Mm-hmm. So you just don't, I mean, we don't know yet. We That's just right. don't know yet. So I'm just kind of looking. What about, one of the things that you hear when you talk about abduction experiences are people coming home with, some kind of like a burn or a mark or, any kind of, I'm going to say physical evidence that something happened to them.
Boy, yes, I've had several of those, and I've had one that Kathy was able to help me track. I discovered it in my left elbow, and this was in the past year, and it was large enough and close enough to the surface that it could be palpated. We both felt it, and then it began to move, and it traveled down my arm and ended up in the back of my hand, and then it disappeared. Where it disappeared to, I don't know. I had a doctor feel it. He just said, I don't know what that is. And he said, if you don't like it there, we can remove it. And before we could do that, it left. There was no mark. We don't know where the exit point was. It was just gone.
So that would possibly be an alien implant. 83% of those who answered the questionnaire said that they had unexplained marks on their bodies. And a lot of times these are black and blue marks, long, like black and blue marks. Denise ended up with a 7-inch long black and blue mark on her thigh after that abduction experience in February. I've had women send me photographs of what appear to be 3 long finger marks, and they're like imprints, pressure marks in their flesh that they took the photographs immediately after they were returned after an abduction experience. Before their flesh would fill up with fluid again. And so that's really eerie to look at some of those. Some of them are quite strange. Also, a lot of triangular marks that almost look like a triangular section of flesh has been removed, or it would have been a triangular-shaped blister, and then the blister broke, and then what you have left is that open area in the shape of a triangle. I'm trying to help you to visualize what it looks like. Of course, the scoop marks, you've heard about those for years and years. But generally, I'm finding that they're right around the knee joint, maybe behind the knee, or right around the elbows, too. Found a lot of those on people. Bloody noses, of course, and what appear to be needle puncture wounds on people as well.
That doesn't sound very fun. All right, I'm going to throw this question out at you because I heard it, and since we were talking about it today, kind of this survey, I thought it would fit in, even though it's kind of weird. I heard a comment that said that, and this is talking about implants, since you mentioned the implants, but I heard somebody make a comment about the reason that they put the scanners in the airport was to look for the amount of people that had implants, because there was a thought that the amount of abductions that were taking place exceeded what the government knew about, and this is their way to find abductees.
I thought they were looking for terrorists.
So did I.
Well, terrorist abductees,
That's a new theory. Wow.
You never heard that one?
No.
Oh,
Heard that one.
well, now have a new one to throw out there. I mean, I thought it was kind of interesting because, I mean, I don't know why we need those full body scanners, to be honest with you. But if you're looking for an implant that could be anywhere, well, that
Denise,
would be one way to do it.
do you set off the security when you go to the airport?
Who, me?
Yes, you, Denise.
Oh, me. They spend an inordinate amount of time. I go through that, and then I end up with a pat down.
Right. But
always.
Are you setting it off when you go?
No. No.
You don't set it off. Okay.
Well,
No.
but if they're patting you down, then you set it off. Because I just went through the airport and I set it off, and I'm like, well, I'm not even wearing hardly anything here.
I know. And I announced that I have an insulin pump, and I offer to show it to them or take it off and put it in the tray. They always ask to see it. I show it to them. They ask me to put my hands all over it, and then they paste your hands with that stuff and run the scanner over it. And then I go through the machine, the X-ray. And when I come out, they want to pat me down, and they do. And it never fails. So I don't know what they're doing. I have yet to figure that out. And then they always take me to the little table at the other side, and they've run, you know how if you need to test something, you actually dip that test tape into the liquid and then look at it to see if it's going to change color or whatever it is they're looking for. They, to me, look like they are pretending at times to do that, because they have opened a medicine bottle of mine and passed the strip over the top. And while they're doing that, I've seen out of the corner of my eye them checking my clothing, and one of them grabbed my arm, not in a rough way, but grabbed it, and I don't know if they were feeling it or what they were doing, but I said, don't you need to dip the test strip in there? It's all right, or pour some into a vial or something. It's okay. I have enough. No, but you can't get a sample of a liquid without dipping into it, and they were not. So I don't know what they were doing. I thought it very, very odd, and they did it more than once. Now, you try taking a test strip of anything and passing it over the top of something and see if you get results. You won't.
That whole thing is just so bizarre to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my favorite, because I just went through the airport, like I said, was now that I didn't know this, you have to take all of your liquid stuff and put it in a baggie. I mean, I knew you could only bring the little ones, but I didn't know you had to put it in a baggie and then put it in the bin.
Uh-huh.
I was to the point that I just wanted to take my entire suitcase and just dump it in a bin. I was just so frustrated. It's like, oh, excuse me, I didn't bring the little baggie,
Yeah.
And my toiletries were way at the bottom, under the clothes, in the and it was just like.
I know. It's very fun. Mine was just a little container. Amber was a prescription of cough medicine that I take. Occasionally, if I need it, I need it. And that's the stuff that I told them they could pour some out to dip the strip in it. And they opened it, and it's got a big wide mouth, and they're waving the strip over the top in more than one airport. That would get them nowhere. Because other things that I had, they dipped in or poured it on, but not that stuff. So I never did understand that. But yeah, I was patted down. I was put through everything you could be put through. So I always and I just knew, something just told me, you're not going to go through this easy. And this was in January, this past January. And I went from Florida to Arizona, and to go home, I had to go through San Diego before I could come back to Florida. So that was interesting. But I went 3 hours early to the airport. I just had a feeling, and sure enough, I was right.
It was that psychic thing.
It was. I think it was.
Well, maybe on our another questionnaire, if we continue with this, we'll have to ask if experiencers are setting off the security system at the airport.
And and I set security off always going into places like Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot. I set it off going in, not going out. So I don't know if that's normal. People always look at me and they say, "Oh, are you leaving?" "No, I just came in."
I have a return.
In my bag? Yeah. Yeah. So I said, "You want to look in my purse?" "No." And they look at me like, "What was that all about?" So, yeah, I do that.
So I'm just going to move along. In the study, men, women, individuals, groups, what kind of numbers did you find?
We found that there were nearly twice as many women as men who completed the questionnaire. And so we wondered if maybe it was just because more women than men are more likely to fill out the questionnaires. But then when it came to the control group, it was more men than women. So, for a long, long time we've heard that most or the majority of experiencers are women. But it's a funny thing. I really don't know because about half of those that I work with on a regular basis are men.
Yeah, and it's not like you could just get a group of people and stick them in an auditorium to do this test.
Right.
No. And this is going to be very interesting because I'm going to have an abductee meeting coming up very soon. I'm interested to see who will show up, and we've also, Kathy and I have got a new abductee questionnaire out, and I'm starting to receive those filled out also. And so far, since this just was put out in the last, Kathy, week and a half?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I've received 5, and they're from all women.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find these people? I mean, you said that you went on, internet boards and radio shows. So did someone have to contact you, or did they just have to go to the website and fill something out online, which would make it more anonymous that way?
Oh, they were entirely anonymous, and they went to my website. It was there. I simply announced that it was there and asked experiencers if they would help with my research. And so they did.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm finding this time that people are genuinely wanting to talk, and they're coming out for the very first time ever, and I'm saying to them, I would be very glad to talk to you. I need a base in order to know what to ask you, so would you please go to our website, fill these out, send them to me, and then I'll talk to you. And so that's how I'm getting some results this time. It's going to help, I think.
Well, I just find it curious, and I don't know if 50 people is like a good number or not a good number. I mean, you guys are more involved in that community than I am, to know what kind of numbers we're really talking about with it in the general sense.
In terms of doing a statistical analysis, 50 people is fine when you're doing an experimental group like this, who are the experiences versus a control group. I mean, in some studies, surveys, they'll use thousands of people, but it's not as specific because you're not talking about a tiny percentage of the population. So 50 is acceptable.
Yes, I agree. 50 is very acceptable because how many people are going to come out as virtual test subjects and say, Yes, I was taken by these entities, and I was possibly put in a craft, and all these things happened to me, and this is where I fit into these categories, and they're willing to do this for us. They're willing to answer these questions, not just to help themselves, to help us with our studies, and to help others.
Well, I mean, I know on the few, like, more hardcore UFO events that I participated at, there was constantly people coming out of the woodwork, oh, I was abducted and this one was abducted. And I don't mean to say it in a sarcastic way, but I mean, that's how it really came off. So it just seemed to me that there was a bigger population, and you would think because they want answers, because they want disclosure, because they want all of this stuff, that there would be more people willing or interested in participating.
Well, and Kathy should remark on this also. I'm finding that some of these genuine, everyday people that get up and go to work and take care of their kids and take care of their lives, and they're not wealthy, they're just trying to make it through, and they have this thing in their life that they've never talked about, are the ones that come out and respond to these questionnaires.
That's true, they do, but also we had several experiencers who are very, very well known who participated in this first study too. Who books have been written about them.
Yes, so it's a mixed bag.
Yes, we did have a mixed bag.
So are people still able to do this questionnaire, this study, and become part of this study? Or are these done as we do this questionnaire, we do a sampling and do a report, and then we come up with a different questionnaire, do a sampling, and do a report? I mean, how does that part work?
Well, I can say that if people are interested in knowing how they compare to this group, they can go to my website, and the report on the first study, on the commonality study, is on my website. So they can go there, they can read the question and answer it for themselves and compare themselves to others. So that's a way that they can do it. But I don't have that questionnaire posted on my website anymore. We have two on my website. I think there's one on Denise's website.
Yes.
The one of those two is the second part of the first commonality study, and that had to do with ET technology. And I'm still asking people to fill that out. But it has to be experiencers who remember what it looked like on board the craft, what they saw, and that sort of thing. Then we've written our second part is called Phase 2 or Stage 2, and that is on both of our websites now. And this is a new series of questions.
And so anyone interested, please fill that out. And because Kathleen's going to be traveling this summer, I'm going to be collecting those. And the instructions are there asking that people fill those out and send them to me, email, and I will gather those up.
Yeah, so if you think you've been abducted, or you know someone that's been abducted, or if maybe you've had some missing time, go to their websites, fill out the questionnaire. So I'm looking at the clock, and we have about, a little less than 10 minutes left. I have two questions, so I'm going to just throw them both out, and then we can cover them both. But they're kind of follow-up. What was the most interesting thing that came out of doing this survey? And then what was the reception to the survey once you correlated all of the responses?
Well, in terms of what I found so interesting is that so many experiencers had so much in common. And, for example, I was very surprised that 67% stated that they consciously recalled the observation of an unconventional craft at less than 1,000 feet. 56% stated that they consciously recalled the observation of non-human entities immediately prior to an abduction when they were outside their home, so they were awake. 76% indicated that they were not alone when they were taken. 62% had conscious recall of at least part of the experience. 43% said that witnesses had observed a UFO near their house or their vehicle or their tent prior to or during their abduction. And 58% said that they were aware of having been examined on a craft. So I think that the thing that was so startling to me is that such a high percentage had this conscious recall, these witnesses, and that's highly significant. Now, what kind of response have we had to that, to this study? I can tell you that I've had many people in academia who have contacted me. These are people with PhDs, people with MDs, and I've had nothing but very positive comments about this study. In fact, one medical doctor encouraged me to submit this to Nature or Science, and I didn't because I know how highly political that is and that there would be probably zero chance of my ever having this published there. But it has been an overwhelmingly positive response. What about you?
Yes, and
what have you found?
Well, I have too, and mine has been, I would have to say, from the experiencers themselves, and I thank you both for doing that. And the results have been astounding to me just because of the amount of people that have these commonalities, and also the questions they have created in my mind, and also the need that I have and that Kathy has to ask more questions and to continue with this. And how far it will go, I don't know. I just know that I have to keep going. And I thank Kathy for being my mentor and knowing where to help me draw the lines, where to move forward, where not to, and to work with me on this and to make the time to do that because it's making it work for both of us.
Do the experiencers, or have you noticed that the experiencers are actually getting some kind of healing by looking at these statistics and not feeling as alone as they maybe did earlier?
Ooh, I'd have to say yes.
I think
Kathy?
We have experiencers who are coming together now, experiencers who have contacted us, and people who are just thanking us because of this information, because they know that they're not alone in all of this. And it's very important to people. It's sort of a vindication in a sense.
Yes, I have to agree. I think it's making a big difference for so many people who are saying, oh gosh, there are so many more out there than I thought. And there are more that I can go to, and I can come to these support groups and I can let loose and tell what I know, and I won't feel weird about it, and other people won't think I'm weird because this group is here for me to go to, and I have people to call now. It's made a big difference.
Yay. So let me start with the survey. So can you name the two different surveys that are now available and where people can go if they think they've been an experiencer to go fill them out?
Sure. There are two posted on my website under current research. And the first one is the ET Technology Survey, and the second one is the second stage questionnaire. And you can go to my website at Kathleen-Marden, M-A-R-D-E-N, to copy it, and then Denise's email address is there so that you could mail it to her when you're done. just put it into an email message and send it to her. And Denise, why don't you give your website?
Yes, mine is Denise, M as in Margaret, Stoner.com, and the questionnaire is there also. You can find it there and fill it out directly and send it to me via email. And so we have it in both places.
Great. And your book, and I won't say ancient, I don't know what that was about. But, there were abductions back then, too.
Yes.
The whole abduction thing is not a new phenomena. The alien abduction files, the most startling case of human alien contact ever reported. So if people wanted to get that, where would they go to look for it?
Well, it's at Amazon. It's in electronic copies and paper copies, Barnes & Noble. You can order it from any bookstore, or you can get autographed copies from our website.
Ooh, and that's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies, this was wonderful. I had so much fun. Great information. I love this work that you're doing because it's just bringing forward the science, and I don't know why no one ever thought to do this before. That's the part that's just startling.
Yes, and there have been some academic studies. There was the Omega Project and then the Omega 2 Project. But they asked, maybe 10 or 12 of the questions, and it was done through a number of psychological measures rather than the way that we did it. They came up with the same results that we came up with on our questionnaire, but ours is far more extensive.
Well, and my feeling is a whole lot less intimidating, too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's easier for them to answer and to get the results, to see where they stand.
Great. Well, I know the music's going to come up here in a second, so ladies, thank you so much. And you'll have to keep me informed of, what's going on with you guys because, I'll have you back somewhere on one of the vast shows.
Well, thank you so much, and we enjoy you too.
All right. Good night, ladies.
Good night.
That's Kathleen Marden and Denise Stoner. Their book, The Alien Abduction Files. Do check out their webpage, especially if you do think that you've had some kind of abduction experience and participate in this research. And so I'm Dr. Rita Louise. You've been listening to Epic Radio. Till the next time I'm back, be blessed.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Please join us again next Monday evening for Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council's Epic Voyages. I'm Roger Peacock for Epic. Until next time.